next guest is probably the 14th member of the 1997 Grand Final team that we've had the pleasure of speaking to. A tremendous side. I speak of Stephen Sziller, a man who played for St Kilda and Richmond and hailed from South Australia, and he joins us in a week where St Kilda plays Richmond in South Australia. But Stephen, thanks very much for jumping on and reflecting on your journey with us tonight.
Cheers, James. Thanks for having me.
Now, you had a very good time of it in South Australia late in the journey there. You won a Jack Oatey medal, which for those who might not be familiar is the Sandful equivalent of a Norm Smith in a grand final, but didn't obviously come into the AFL system straight away. It did take a little bit longer to get across.
Yeah, I suppose so. I'm originally from the Adelaide Hills. I went down and played under 17s and 19s with West Torrens. And obviously we amalgamated with Woodville, become the Eagles. So, yeah, I played probably 2 or 3 years there. After I did win the Jack Oatey medal, I think a couple of us tried to put a name in the draft, but the club sort of held us off a bit and said, you can wait a couple of weeks. And then it was obviously too late and get in. But, by the time I thought I got drafted, it was a year later. I was sort of 22. So, yeah, come over a bit later.
Steve, what was the process then? How did you end up at?
Yeah, so it was pretty much the same as the draft situation now. We just put ourselves into a draft. Obviously, I did have St Kilda come over after we won the grand final with Johnny Beveridge and Gary Colling come over and sort of had a chat to probably 6 or 7 of us and spoke to a few different clubs and then, was lucky enough to get picked up by St Kilda.
So how did you find that coming into the system a bit later than, I guess, a regular draftee would? A bit more mature and at the age of around 22 by the time you came into or 23 by the time you came into the team. Did it feel a bit, I guess, more? You had a bit more experience behind you. It felt you slipped into the team a little bit easier, or?
Yeah, look, I think I ended up playing 3 years, I think, in seniors over in Adelaide, which I think is about 72 games for West Torrens. And it did. I think, you're playing against grown men back then, and it was a very good comp too, the South Australian League. So I felt that coming over here, it did make it a bit easier to sort of, adapt to the lot bit faster pace. But I think you were used to the bigger bodies and everything after being playing. And like I say, I was 22, so you sort of developed a bit more, which was probably a good thing.
You weren't on your own either. Darryl Wakeland won the Jack Oatey medal in 94, the year after you, and then he went across to the Saints via Port Adelaide, and obviously Shane, his twin there as well. So there were a few mature age South Australians arriving at Moorabbin at about the same time.
Yeah, there was. I think there was 3 Jack Oatey medalists still end up at St Kilda. So, we were all sort of that older age, and I think St Kilda had, I think it was when Plugger Lockett sort of left, and I think St Kilda recruited a heap of young blokes, but also a few mature age players as well.
Having tried to get into the system for a couple of years and then finally made it, what was that first, 6 weeks or first couple of months like, in the locker room at training? What was that period like for you?
Yeah, I suppose it's always different coming into a new environment, new club, or coming into the state. But look, they were great. The blokes made it really easy, and I think there was probably could have been up to 10, maybe a few more new players as well. So it wasn't like just a couple of blokes coming in, and the blokes were already there were really good. Made you felt welcome straight away. And I think back in those days too, it was you could sort of go and have a beer with the boys. So we used to do that after on weekends and stuff, which I think you get that bond a lot quicker and better. It made it a lot easier.
So you get drafted in the 94 draft for the 95 season, and you go on to play all 22 games that season. Did you walk into the door thinking, hey, I'm going to play a lot of football here, or I'll probably be stuck at Waverley at 10 a.m. playing in the freezing cold most of the time? Or how is it, I guess, after that season, thinking, hey, I've played every game this year? How was the feeling there?
Yeah, look, I suppose you sort of, when you walk into a club, and especially an AFL club, you sort of, you don't expect to probably, you probably might expect to play a handful of games, but you don't really expect to play the whole season, which I was, fortunate enough to do. I didn't have any injuries really, and it's something you don't expect to do, and it's probably not till the end of your career you sort of sit back and realise, you did play, the full season, and which, a lot of people probably don't as they first started. But like I say, I think playing in the Sandful really did help out. those 3-4 years of senior footy beforehand.
We'll come back to your career in a second. I'll just jump ahead momentarily. So Danny Frawley was your captain in 1995 before he retired. I believe you're the only player to have played with Danny Frawley and then been coached by him. I think that's right. So what was that experience like, having him as a captain? And then was he the same person, the same personality when he got to Richmond a few years later?
Yeah, look, Spud he was a ripping fella, I got to St Kilda and, he was a serious bloke, but he did have that fun side to him. And, he liked to play a few practical jokes and they'd muck around with the boys. I was fortunate enough when St Kilda sort of delisted me back in 98. I think it was 98, yeah. And Spud sort of called me up. I was just working in the factory and said, look, he said, we've got a pick at number 56. Would you like to come? And I said, yeah, well, I still want to sort of play AFL football. And, yeah, which I was really glad. And he gave me the opportunity. And it was good. Like, the first year I went there, it was still that, bloke that was having a joke and mucking around a bit, but still had that serious side to him. And we did have a good year. I think in our first year, we made a prelim final against Brisbane. And then the next year, we started losing a little bit. And he sort of changed a little bit. I think he had to with, he was getting a bit of pressure on him for probably drafting a few of us older blokes, and they wanted to go in a different direction. So, yeah, I think his coaching style did change a little bit in my second year.
Just, I guess, going back a little bit earlier again, as Aaron said before, you played pretty much every game, I think, in 95, and then it was just 11 in 96. You played the first 5 of the season and then came back late to play the last 6. What happened in the middle there? Was there an injury or was it form or what was going on then?
Yeah, so I broke my ankle. I think it was around 5 or 6 years. So I missed 11 weeks with a broken ankle. So that was out of Waverley Park. I think it was just, might have been, I think Nicky Winmar might have done his knee not long after, or might have been a couple of weeks before. I wasn't sure. But yeah, we were playing the Bulldogs, and it was probably only about 2 minutes to go in the game, and Colin fell over my leg, and I sort of felt a snap, but I sort of got back in the change rooms. I thought, I must have just sprained it, or didn't really know what happened. But then, the pain sort of started coming through after that. So I went to the doctors, and it was a broken ankle. So yeah, missed quite a chunk of that season.
So yeah, still in 96 that season. Basically, we start off with the pre-season premiership. The team sort of wasn't a bad start, wasn't a great start, but the season rolled on and we end up just missing the finals by, I think it was a game and a half. How's the feeling in the group, thinking that this group's a pretty good group? We think we can go a long way with it. It was sort of, like, I guess, launching into something. Was there a good feeling there and thinking that, hey, we could actually achieve something?
Yeah, look, I think there was. I think, going back to 95, I think when we drafted, the Aussie Joes and Joel Smiths and a lot of these younger blokes, we knew we had some really good kids there. And obviously you had the Harvey Burks, Lowy Winmar. So we had, the real good players there. And, yes, we always sort of knew it was going to happen. But I think in 96, it sort of come on, pretty quick. These kids come on really good. And, we knew we had the list and it was going to take a few years to probably get, to a grand final. But it sort of come pretty quickly, which was, I think we knew that was going to happen. We had a good enough side. But yeah, it was a really good ride.
Heard a lot of perspectives on the turning point in 97. We were 1-4 and then went on an amazing run all the way through to the grand final. Unfortunately, fell short. Can you pinpoint that turning point, and what was that experience like, getting all the way through to grand final day and obviously looking like a decent chance to win it for a fair bit of that day?
Yeah, look, I think that last half of 97, when we did start to put a lot of games together, and we knew we had a good side and we were playing good footy, we knew we were in with a good chance with, a lot of the other sides were playing, and knocking North Melbourne off, I think, in the prelim, which sort of, looked really good coming into the grand final. I think with Laser Vidovic and Spider going down was probably, a bit of a blow for us because we, they were both in really good form. But, I think Dave Sierakowski, Brett Cook come in, they were doing well. And like I say, at the start of the grand final, we got off to a great start. And, going into half time, I think we were a couple of goals up and playing good football. And then I think, just after that, it's hard to pinpoint, but, you obviously had Darren Jarman who come out and done some, pretty freaky things. And I think they just got on a bit of a roll and we just couldn't stop it. So it was, it was a great build up to the day. And it was, but at the end of the day, obviously it's it was probably one of the worst days in football we had.
What was your role on that day? I mean, who were you lined up to match up on? What were the instructions from Stan, if you can recall? And I guess by extension, what was your role in general under Stan? Because I think a lot of people kind of talk about you looking back as a tagger, but you weren't really a tagger in the traditional sense, because you still racked up possessions. You're kind of hovering around the high teens, low 20s. Most of your career, and obviously bobbed up and kicked a few goals here and there. But I mean, what was your role week in, week out? And then, like I said, your role on grand final day?
I think when I first did come over, I'd come over as like a rover, sort of forward pocket sort of a player. And I think I started off in a couple of pre-season games playing that sort of a role. And I think it was probably a couple of weeks into the main season, and I think Stan give me a job as a tagging role, which then I obviously went on to do, and I had a couple of good weeks doing it, and it ended up sticking there for most of my career. He did throw me up forward a little bit, because I used to obviously play forward. But on grand final day, I was playing as a halfback. I think it was on Connell, maybe for Adelaide Pros. But on grand final day, I was more of a halfback sort of back pocket sort of a day. So so I was sort of down back.
So moving forward into 1998, you get selected for the South Australian team. How's it representing your state? Obviously, I don't think you probably came up against many of your teammates, being Western Australia that you played, but I can't remember if Sarakowski made that team or not. He was probably about maybe the only opportunity one we might have had.
I think
But
Gavin Mitchell.
He was there by that stage.
Yeah, I think Gavin Mitchell. He was playing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but how was representing the state in the? I guess you might have played South Australia for the Sandful, but that's at AFL level. How was that representing the state?
Yeah, I mean that was really, it was massive. So like you say, it's great to play obviously for an AFL side, but to actually represent your state, it was a massive experience for me. I had a couple of mates that I went to school with over in Adelaide, Brett James and Scotty Burns, who both played in that game as well. So it was good, and you're playing against with the better players from South Australia, and I think Rennie was the ruckman, and so it was just you're getting together with all the local blokes, and it was a really good experience. Playing that year against West Australia, it was unfortunate the following year I got picked again to play in the next year, who were playing Victoria and Spider and Aussie, and I think Berkey and Haas might have been playing, but I broke my thumb a week before the game, so I sort of missed out there, which would have played against a few of the boys, which that was that really wet day. I think Brent Harvey won the the medal. So that was one I sort of look back and think I wouldn't have mind playing against the boys there.
The purple.
Steve, just jumping in quickly about State of Origin, but what's your perspective now on State of Origin? Obviously, you played a lot of footy, you went through injuries and all that stuff, but loved playing for your state. Do you think State of Origin should be a thing in today's footy, or can you kind of understand why it isn't?
Look, I mean, I'd love to see it, and I think a lot of the blokes would love to be a part of it. Look, I just even watching the news tonight, you look at the news, and every week there's just so many injuries at the moment, and from week to week, and it's sort of, I can understand why a lot of them probably don't want to be a part of it because of that factor, and whether it's really hard whether they can reschedule before or after the season. But I mean, most blokes would love to play for your state because it's a great thrill, and it's a really good to be able to do it and to be a part of it.
Purple Patch, we turned our season around in 98, beating Sydney by 100 points at the SCG. You kicked 5 in the first half, 6 for the game. I think your 6th came about 3 minutes into the third term. What are you thinking at that stage as someone who's done tagging roles, played defence, thinking, I've got 5 minutes into the third term, I might just rock up and kick 10?
Yeah, I think after I did in the third quarter, I think I sucked one off the ground, And then you think, oh, I need to get a couple more here. And it was actually funny because I used to tag Wayne Schloss, who then at North Melbourne, he was up at Sydney. And anyway, I'm in the forward pocket and he come to me and he goes, he's spiel and he goes, well, the coach has told me I've got to come and play on you. The roles have turned. And I don't think I got much more after that. I think I was running past Sziller at one stage trying to get a handle off him, but he just kept me bum on from about 60. But I think you think you're going to hopefully kick a few more. But no, look, I was happy to kick 6. That's a day that you sort of don't forget.
You had 29 touches and kicked 6 and didn't pick up a Brownlow vote that day. Did you have a bit of a chat to Harves, Tomo, and Berkey for stealing your votes that day?
Yeah, well, that used to happen pretty much every week anyway, and I don't think I used to be on the umpire's best side at the best of times, so they probably didn't really worry about me running around the forward line. But Harves, no doubt, would have probably got 35 that day anyway.
38.
38, there we go. That was the norm.
So in regards to Brownlow votes, as Nick found an interesting stat there, you picked 4 up in your career, all in the same year, 2 games against the same team. 2 votes against the Eagles, both meetings. Do you recall having good matches against them, or you lined up on someone you thought, oh, here we go, I got more Brownlow votes here coming again, or who'd you line up on those days?
I don't think so, because normally I was playing on Ben Cousins, so I don't think would have picked up too many Brownlow votes there. But maybe it might have been earlier in the year in the career. Was it over here or over in the West? I'm not too sure.
99,
Both. Yeah.
99, one over there and one over here.
Okay.
Same year.
No, I remember I thought I only got 2 votes, but you surprised me there because there was nothing really that I can't really remember. I was always Ben Cousins, or unless Stan might have given me a bit of leeway and said just go and play. I'm not too sure.
You mentioned earlier, so your 2000 year wasn't too bad, but obviously the club's 2000 year was a shocker, and there was heavy changes with Tim Watson moving on. Several players were moved on, the likes of Jason Heatley, Tony Brown, both Wakelands, and yourself. Was it a touch surprising, given you'd actually been a pretty solid player that year?
Yeah, look, it was actually funny because I was sort of away up in the Gold Coast with Spider, and we were sort of just walking around, and we went to he had to go grab something from the 7-Eleven, and he got a paper, and my photo was in the back, said delisting. So that's sort of how I found out. And he sort of rang up the club, and sort of Wally Waldron said, no, don't listen to what's going on there. And so I was sort of a bit surprised, and then when I went back to the club and sort of got told, and look, I was out of contract, and I think what happened was when Blighty come in, a lot of us that did get delisted were out of contract, and I think I sort of wanted to make a bit of room to pick up, which they got Fraser Garrick and Aaron Hamill, and I think they wanted to sort of go in a bit of a new direction, I suppose. I think Rewald and Kaczynski come to the club, maybe was it that year? So they were sort of it was. I mean, none of us were we loved the club, and we're pretty good clubmen around the place. But I think we're all sort of a bit shocked that we moved on. But that's sort of when you get a new coach coming in and they have new ideas, and so it was disappointing in that way, because you always like, I would love to stay at St Kilda, but look, that didn't happen, and I ended up going to Richmond, which I had a couple of years there under Spud, which was great.
I guess without trying to bring up too many bad memories, what's that like as a player who obviously wants to stay at a footy club? You said you're away when you found out. You came back to Melbourne and would have come into the club or spoken to someone at the club. What was that like? Who did you talk to? And I guess what's that meeting like for you?
Well, it was a pretty short one. It was I had to go see Brian Waldron. That was who Spider said, look, when you get back from the Gold Coast, come down and see me. Look, no one was at the club. Obviously, it was off season. I just walked upstairs into Wally's office, and I could see straight away on his face, and he said, look, sorry, Zills, look, this is what's happening. I said, look, no worries, no hard feelings. And I pretty much just walked out, got my boots, and that was pretty much it. I was on my way. So, and then at that stage, you sort of, I think I was 27 or 28 around that time, and you sort of think, I sort of thought that was it, like I was finish sort of thing, because it was getting to the oldest sort of part of your career. But like I said, it was playing a year with Spud, and I was grateful that he gave me the opportunity to to kick on for another 2 years.
Yeah, speaking of Spud, and you were talking just before about his being under pressure a little bit at one stage. We've had Richo on tell us about the whole bringing the air compressor out, saying, "What am I?" and that sort of thing. Have you got any other sort of little stories that you remember, or incidents or anything you sort of remember from there as well, that either from, I guess, the St Kilda days or when he was a coach?
Probably a couple of things with Spud, I suppose, when I first went down here doing a pre-season, and he'd be running around the tan track, and Spud was still out there, with his top, all dressed like he was one of the players, still running around as a big unit, and Spud was always pretty physical, so when we were doing the trend, he used to always have, watch out, but he's more of a young bloke. He'd be running up next to him and just give him a big hip and shoulder and send him rolling down the hill. And he says, you got to be ready for anything in footy, and he used to do it all the time, and I think Aaron Fiore used to up a lot. He used to get into Aaron Fiore a bit, and he was one of the young kids from South Australia, and had a lot of talent. But I suppose another one was in a meeting with Aaron Fiore again, and I think Aaron had a couple of drinks, might have been out. Yeah, he goes, I had 6 UDLs, and Spud just went off his head, and he's like, 6 UDLs? It must have been off your head. Who drinks 6 UDLs? And I sort of looked, sitting back with my head down, thinking, all right, I normally have a dozen beers, and I don't mind having a few bourbons after that, so I think 6 UDLs is too much. But he was always a bit of a character, like he's always in meetings and stuff, he'd pick blokes out. He liked to have a bit of a joke, but yeah, I always remember him running the tan track. It was so funny.
Maybe he had an issue with the UDLs, not the number of UDLs, but the fact that they were in fact UDLs. That might have been his issue. But post your footy career, obviously you played a lot of local footy in Victoria, and can you sort of track your journey after that? What have you been up to, and what was that football experience like post AFL?
Yeah, look, it was good. I ended up going over to East Burwood for 3 years, which is in the eastern suburbs. There was a few Richmond players, Matty Rogers, Bertie. There's a couple of Richmond boys that ended up going there, and that's why I sort of went there. I live in East Bentley and knew a lot of the blokes from St Paul's, which is in the Southern League. But I sort of wanted to still, because I was still pretty young, 29, I thought I wanted to still play a good standard of footy, and Eastern was pretty good back then. So, I played 3 years there, lucky enough to play in 2 grand finals, which we got beaten both times by Naval Park, which is just down the road from me. So after the 3rd year, I ended up coming back, playing another 3 years for St Paul's in the Southern League, and unfortunately, again, I played in 3 grand finals in 3 years. We lost the first 2, and then luckily we won the last one. So we won my final one. I think I was 35, and I thought, that's it. I'm happy to finish up on that. And then the following year, I ended up going back to my hometown, Loberthal, where it all started from. And I played my last game there about round 10. I think I went over. We had a minibus went over with a heap of my mates. There's about 10 of us from Melbourne, and went over and played my last game in Loberthal.
Good way to end up with a flag and a bus full of mates. But well, I guess what's the body like now? Having been through a lot of footy between the Sandful, AFL, and then local footy. Obviously, we hear a lot about ex-players and their health and bodies kind of post-career. But I guess what's this period like for you? How you feeling? How you travelling?
Yeah, look through my career, I was very lucky. I think, like I said, with the ankle, I broke my ankle, my thumb. They were my 2 major injuries that I had. It wasn't until when I started playing local footy, the last 4 years, I started getting a lot of soft tissues, like a lot of hamstring injuries. Other than that, I've been pretty lucky and blessed by, I haven't really got too many really bad injuries. And look, the body's still feeling great. I ended up working as a sales rep for a plumbing company, I think for probably 12, 13 years. So the body, obviously being a ref, you're not doing too much. You're sort of taking it easy. And then I've just started my own business up about 3 years ago and gone the opposite way, where it's into gardening. And so it's a lot more physical and, lawn mowing and cutting trees down. And so but my body's coping with it, so which is good. And I do like the physical side of things.
Yeah. So that's, I guess, off field. Do you still follow St Kilda much these days? Do you keep tabs on them? Do you get to games much these days? Are you still like an active supporter? And if so, like any players you sort of think, oh, I like to follow this player, or you like the way this player plays the game, and how do you think we might be travelling?
Yeah, look, I'm a past member and I'm a member of St Kilda, so I've always followed St Kilda. Like I said, I was playing for Richmond 2 years. You still my club's St Kilda. I was there for the 6 years and grew up with all those young blokes. So I watch most of the St Kilda games. I try to get along to a couple of past players functions a couple of times a year. So, but look, I think I'm pretty excited with what they've got. They're totally different to the roster side that he had last time. He's got a lot of young kids coming through. They're very exciting. They're exciting. Look, they're very quick. Look, I think it's going to be pretty exciting for the club in the next couple of years, especially with Ross there. He's got a good. You got Pars under him, and they just seem like they've been very unlucky. I think too. They've lost a couple of close games, but they're very good to watch, and I think there's going to be some exciting times there. Like Owens, they just got some really good kids. Philippou, I played with his dad in Adelaide at West Torrens. Sammy Philippou, he came over and played at Footscray for a couple of years. I was over there talking to him, and he's more of a midfielder, which I don't think he's been playing a lot of midfield in his first year. But they've just got some exciting kids. I think young Henry they picked up. Obviously, he's just done a hamstring, but he adds a lot. I went to the Moorabbin game, the pre-season game. I looked down there, and they've got a lot of good times ahead of them, I reckon.
Just finally, give your business a bit of a plug. You mentioned you've started that up. How might people track you down?
Actually, it's funny because I'm pretty chockers. Like it's battery's tough, but it's Zill's Gardening Services. But the funny thing is, my daughter got it started. She put it on Facebook. I didn't buy a business. I just started off scratch. And before I knew it, I had too much work, and because once you get your clients, you sort of you're that busy, and so it's pretty. I've got into a bit of government stuff, which is good with aged care, and they just keep giving me work. So I've got plenty of work, but look, I love it, and like I say, it keeps me fit and keeps me going.
Brilliant, mate. Thank you very much for joining us. Well done on your contribution with the Saints over the years. It was a great time to be watching footy, and thanks for sharing the journey with us.
No worries. Thanks a lot, guys.